And then they got really annoyed. They're like, dude, you're not going to ask me back? And I was like, why would I? And they're like, because that's what we do in social situations. I'm asking you a question. Now you should be intrigued to ask me, how do I feel about it? So do you always forget to ask things back to people if they're asking you a question? Or do you sound like you're rude or impolite? This is the ADHD social maze, and I'm going to go over it right now with you. I have 3 specific things about this, which is going to highlight a lot to you and kind of really open your mind to be like, whoa, this is interesting. Okay, so number 1, the social etiquette and the struggle with returning comments in a conversation. Now, I'll give you a story. My friend once said to me, hey, think about this. You're on an island, a desert island. What 3 things are you going to bring with you to survive? So I listed, I don't know, like a knife, flint, and big tanks of water, right? And then that was it. I was happy and I kind of gone on with my day. And then they got really annoyed. They're like, dude, you're not going to ask me back? And I was like, why would I? And they're like, because that's what we do in social situations. I'm asking you a question. Now you should be intrigued to ask me, how do I feel about it? And then the same thing happened when I was like going on my day, and I passed one of the neighbors. I was walking the kids to school and I passed the neighbor. He's walking his dog and he's like, hey, how are you? I'm like, really good. He's like, yeah, what are you up to? And I said, well, I've been, here, there, and everywhere, work, writing my book, etc., etc. And then I was like, okay, cheerio, bye-bye. And I went home. And then I got home and then I explained the story to my family and they were like, oh, did you ask how they were doing? And I was like, no, should I? And they said, well, yeah, of course. It's a polite thing to do. So we get into this realm, this maze of social etiquette that we don't understand. Because autistic individuals, and by the way, my name is Dan and I have autism and ADHD. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, I do videos like this pretty much every day. So you can hit the subscribe button to follow along here on YouTube, or you can just go to the follow button if you're watching on Facebook. But in terms of autistic social etiquette, those things we learn in school with our friends or at a high school age with our friends, but autistic individuals are spending all the time navigating the sensory overload from the world and the understanding of the world that we don't pick up all of those social etiquette cues and conventions because we're so busy trying to just live in the world that's extremely chaotic for us. And that's really interesting because it gives rise to this type of thing where you're impolite, you don't ask me back the question, or you're socially inept in this conversation, which isn't the case. We all know that that's not the case. We are socially able when we have to be, but there's also a group dynamic, and that is really where it happens, or where it takes kind of heat. Now, you can approach and learn this type of thing where you kind of set a benchmark where, hey, if this person asks me a question, I'm going to analyze the question kind of algorithmically and see, okay, they've asked me how I'm doing, so I should ask how they are doing. Maybe that's why they're asking, right? Or if they're asking me a question about something fun, then I'd ask them what they would do in this situation. It's never going to harm to ask the other person the same thing, because they'll either respond in 2 ways. One, they will respond with the question's answer, like, maybe they want to, or they will say, oh, I don't know. And it means they don't want to respond. And that's okay too. So just think about those things when you're dealing with social etiquette moving forward. Okay, the second one here is the loss or losing of friends because you don't know how to maintain and keep friends. And this is a social minefield. Like, friends demand time, energy, effort, and that is socially draining, which means it takes your social battery, which is dependent on a few things: energy levels, which is body levels, and dopamine. Now, dopamine, the happy hormone that gets released when we we're with people we enjoy, or we're with our loved ones, or we're playing a video game, or we're exercising or swimming, or something that gives us joy. This releases dopamine into the brain, which is kind of the brain's way of rewarding you for doing the thing that you enjoy doing, right? But autistic individuals, we are deficient in dopamine, which means we burn through it and we demand more of it than the average person. And so when you're dealing with friends, they demand so much of your time and energy that you burn through dopamine quicker, which means that you get stupidly bored very easily. And then you burn out of all the energy reserves and you just literally want to go, well, I want to go home now and curl up in a ball and cry. Because, I know if it's you, if I just called you out, I'll give this video a thumbs up, comment, say, Dan, I give this video a thumbs up because I'm right now in a ball in my bedroom crying watching this video. Because social etiquette demands that friends and people in your social circle, or the group that you belong to, demand your attention or demand your energy. And it's hard to do because it takes so much energy to show up, to look in somebody's eyes, because autistic individuals find this difficult, to listen very carefully to the conversation so that you're getting the words right, or you're getting what they're saying right, and you can respond as quickly as possible, because typically autistic individuals will take a little bit of time to respond because we're processing what they say. Sometimes there may be one or two people talking over each other, and then you can't hear any of them. It's just noise, and you can't process that information. And so it's really interesting. Then comes the second one. The second part of this is that with friends, you should keep up with texting them or messaging them or phoning them or going to visit them to see how they're doing, just to check in with them, right? Because they're friends. Like, people may text you, hey, I miss you. How are you doing? Or, hey, have you seen this? Or, hey, how are you doing? I'm just in the neighborhood. But autistic individuals, because it's not in front of us and it's not apparent, will forget about it. Not because we don't like those people or we don't care about those people. Quite on the contrary, we care deeply about them. But it's not our first go-to to think, I'm going to phone or call that person, because we're already dealing with life, and we're navigating through an escalation of different things. It could be sensory input, it could be emotional input, it could be life demands, focus struggles, other communication, taking the kids to school, going to the grocery store, all these things demanding our energy. So the friends then kind of get put on the back burner because our bodies are just pushing us towards survival, and the things we need to survive are the things that are going to demand our energy in that moment, not, hey, I got to remember to, give Bob or Chelsea a ring or a text message. And those things are super interesting. It doesn't mean you're a bad friend. But one thing I would say is that when you make friends with people, when you kind of build a somewhat camaraderie with someone, just say to them, hey, I may be terrible at reaching out. I may be terrible at texting back within the right time frame. And I may not pick up my phone and I may not phone you. But just know that it's not personal. I don't hate you or anything. It's just that it's hard for me to remember all the time to reach out, do those things, and be there for you as a friend. It doesn't mean I'm never going to be there. It just means that in that moment, it's just difficult for me. Because then they'll kind of know what to expect. They know that, hey, if Dan doesn't reply, then it's okay. It's not like he hates me. He's already pre-told me that he'll probably be busy or he'll forget. And so a true friend, somebody who really cares about you and has your best interest at heart, will understand that and really just either persist so you can, communicate to them, or they'll understand and give you some space and then come back and then give you, like, maybe, okay, well, in an hour, I'll give them another call. In 2 hours, I'll give them another call, or whatever. So that's really interesting. Okay, the third one is, you definitely heard of this. You're being called rude by people in maybe professional environments or maybe in, like, more intimate environments. Maybe you and your partner, somebody calls you rude because, you don't follow the typical social scripts of a neurotypical person or a person who is not autistic. So maybe, in neurotypical people, they'll expect certain things, like maybe it's remembering, like, anniversaries, or maybe it's remembering birthdays and stuff like that. Maybe it's remembering to do something where it's like, I have to, I don't know, do a certain thing every week on a Wednesday. My partner has a pamper day, and I have to remember this. But autistic individuals may drop the ball with this because they're so focused on the thing that's right in front of them at that moment in time that they kind of get lost or confused, and they'll forget. And especially if you have ADHD with it, then the focus gets drawn in many different directions, and that can be dropped. Now, that doesn't mean that you're being rude or you don't care or you despise or have a lack of affinity for your partner, or a lack of love for your partner or the friend or whoever it may be in this scenario. It just means that you were busy focusing on something else and that your brain is needing a little bit of extra care. So what I like to do is set alarms on my phone. So I said to my phone or my iPad, like, hey, Siri, set me up an alarm to tell me to take the flowers to my partner's work, or remind me to run a bubble bath for my partner. And those things, when it alerts me, I go, oh, I'll action it. I'll action it right now. So I set it up for the right time every week or every year, or whatever it is, at that time with the right wording on my phone. So it goes, hey, Dan, do this. You can always use an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home Hub to do the same type of thing. I actually have a guide of how to use these. So if you're like, Dan, I don't really know technology, I've got a free guide all about this. Just go to the description of this video and there'll be a link for this, or you can just go to theaspyworld.com/AI guide, and it will take you to the guide for this type of voice first technology, is what it's called. So it doesn't mean that you're rude, because what happens is you're going to come across a lot of the time, and I tell this to people who are in my coaching clientele, my mentorship program. I say to them all the time, like, you're not being rude and you're not a rude person. The fact that you're trying to improve your ability to socially communicate proves that you're not a rude person, because a rude person would just be rude and forget about it. They wouldn't worry about it. But we worry. We as autistic individuals worry. Am I being rude? Did I say the wrong thing? And we start ruminating. The thought process starts kind of just pedaling in our mind. And we think about it all night, and then you don't sleep. And I know I just called you out, so give this video a thumbs up if I just called you out. And it's not that you're rude. It's just that your brain works very differently to other people. And it's just knowing, what hacks can I do? What things can I do that would help me in that situation, so that the other person doesn't know that, or they do know that I'm not being rude and doesn't think that ill of me. The only other thing is that with your partner or loved one or the person that you're kind of having to communicate that you're not being rude to, you have to communicate to them that, hey, I have needs. I have a disability. I have this. And so I'm sorry if X, Y, or Z, or if I forget this, this is why. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means that I'm having a difficult time with that. And that's fine. And I have to kind of, you know, think about the idea. It's because a lot of the time we don't say these things because we're unconfident and we have a lack of confidence. And when our confidence lacks, the ADHD person, our self-esteem hits rock bottom. And when our self-esteem hits rock bottom, it's all over. We got nothing in the tank. We're like, and then you want to feel like, oh, I'm going to just do this and I'm going to die or whatever. So I actually have some a free training webinar that you can go and watch right now, completely free, all about building confidence for autistic people. If you just go to www.bulletproofbrain.org right now, or the link will be in the description down below, you can watch that for free. And it's really good. So I want you to go take that, watch it if you're having struggles in this area of confidence and kind of self-motivation, and then come back and let me know in the comment section. All right, guys, peace.